Hola, ¿qué hora? Welcome to this little video that we are doing here with my colleague Zola.
We really want to excite you to know that there are lots of opportunities that this report presents that is going to make such a big difference for Aotearoa as a whole country, because when we benefit women, we really do benefit. It ripple effects so wide that we really will have a better society if we can get our housing right.
Like I said, I think we all in Aotearoa are clear that there is a huge housing crisis and housing shortage that several governments have been trying to address in different ways, but we have seen some progress, but not as much as we need to see or at the speed that we need to see. And I think exploring what has been happening internationally could help us to find innovative ways to find solutions here in New Zealand as well. As all of us being migrants, we know about some of those ideas that they are happening in our countries, and we want to bring as part of our contribution to our new land, these ideas and these options. I guess we also have different values or ways of living that sometimes we don't see in the way that they are building in New Zealand. We like that more collective living where we all help each other, where we can look after each other's children in a more village way. And it is hard to find those type of options in Aotearoa. Every day we see more of those little houses being built, that they are quite individualistic maybe in their approach. So yes, I think it is time to see what else is there and how we can meet our values, with the speed that we need for solve this housing crisis, and what else, that giving more options and more new ideas. And like you were saying, thanks to the Well Energy Trust that they have come on board, exploring ideas or trying to look for ideas, especially for the Waikato, because that is the area that the Well Energy Trust cover. But this knowledge, is for everyone around New Zealand and maybe other places around the world as well. So really excited to see this report finally being finished. It's been hard with the pandemic and with all the things going on around the world. That here we are, and really looking forward listening a little bit about these highlights and the new discoveries that you have done through your research.
So looking at the systemic level, which is more like how do we make a policy that is good for the whole country, not just the Waikato, there are policies in place at the moment which really do favor more profit-driven housing. So that would be your developer model. And the government doesn't really want to take a risk. So we need a lot of underwriting to happen where a community, as I was mentioning around the Chapeltown co-housing, where there is a lot more risk in that kind of a development where it's got a different tenure model, there needs to be that underwriting. So from the systemic level, it's really a lot more government support, government really seeing that these are impact projects, right? The impact is not just somebody getting themselves into a house. It's really got social and even environmental and economic benefits for a community. And so when government can see that the impact from a housing project is going to also achieve the goals that they have already set in place for their social, cultural, economic, and ecological objectives set out in their various different strategies, they can actually see that this housing project helps to achieve that in a really practical, real, place-based way. And therefore, the money that they would have spent in other ways can actually be channeled into the housing. Okay, so just briefly from these key recommendations that we've got on the beginning part of the report. So we speak firstly to central and local government needing to reform the financial, tax, regulatory, and zoning policies that support collective and community-led housing models and that remove the barriers. I do go into the report about what those, some of what those regulatory barriers are in zoning and We talk about supporting and working in partnership with collective housing organizations. So the Housing and Urban Development Government Policy Statement does speak to the need to partner with collective housing organizations, collective being, groups of people or community-led groups that want to create their own housing solutions. But I haven't seen anything from the year since it's been published where the government has actually made any sort of move to make that happen. And I mentioned around the underwriting of the financially supporting the alternative tenure models. And we mentioned the community land trust already as being a fantastic opportunity to remove the cost of land from the cost of housing, where the community land trust holds the land in perpetuity. It also has a mechanism for perpetually affordable housing, where when housing is sold, it stays at the level at which there's been the increase in cost of living rather than the increase of the market rate. We need some more information on ethnic groups. So this was limited to the Waikato, and I think there's ethnic groups around the country, and we really would be best served to hear more from the various different ethnic groups. What does housing look like to them? What would a great housing situation be for them? We've got a lot of resettled refugees, we have a lot of migrants, but we don't have a lot of housing that reflects their needs and values. So more research, I would say, to get more of their voice so that we have multi-ethnic and culturally diverse housing. And I have set out a few guidelines of things that we can think about when we're talking about what does a multi-ethnic, culturally diverse look like. But we need more guidelines that developers and housing providers should be following. So they have you have the Home Star, which helps around the healthy homes. That's environmental. But we also need some that are appropriate for different cultures. And we need I think this would be really great for us to have a community housing provider, as there is in America and Australia, that specifically meets the needs of women and ethnic families. Women are 50% of the population. It certainly wouldn't be serving a minority group. And then we also need the ability to empower women themselves, women and families, to be able to understand this really big, this report is full of opportunities, but helping to transfer that knowledge and build capacity in a way where the community feels like, okay, I know what my options are. And this is how I want to be able to contribute. Because that was one of the things I wanted to point out in the research was that when we asked if there's going to be a pilot housing project and you have an opportunity to participate, would you? And what would you be able to contribute? And a lot of women contributed their skills. They said if they have accounting or bookkeeping, they would do it. Research. A lot of women have skills to contribute. They need to be given that opportunity to be able to do their own housing. So that's the last recommendation, is that building capacity for women. It's really a workshop. It's a participatory, facilitated, engaged workshop that gets us to really identify who's putting their stake into it and going to play their part. So that
if people are keen on participating on this workshop or to find out more about the work that Zola has been doing, they can email us at Shama, info@Shama, Shama is shama.org.nz, and they can email you as well, Zola?
Sure, yeah, if you'd like to be in touch with me, my email is zola@commonground.net.nz. zola@commonground.net.nz.
Right. Thanks, Zola, so much for taking the time of sharing some of the insights into the report and explaining a little bit about the recommendations and the solutions that you have found through your research. We look forward people reading this report, finding some of these ideas, exploring them. And again, if they have questions or they want to discuss further, maybe come to the workshop or approach us for more information. Thank you so much for your time, Zola. And thank you everyone for watching. And ka kite.
Ka kite.